Welcome to the Restoration Group podcast, where we are often silly, but always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their work into their Christian faith. I'm your host, Clay Steves. Today, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Aaron Scott and Michael Mead. And today is the final episode of a 3-part series. We could say we might land the plane today. We might land some, probably us. Aaron and I are bringing the vibrance, the color here at the end of the year, bringing warmth in the winter season. Michael, a little drab.
It's a slate.
Oh, gosh.
I can handle it. It's a slate gray.
Yeah. The only reason I say it's because the majority of the time that's my color. This is out of the norm for me. T.
Bringing it with my cup.
I love it. Michael, why don't you tell us about the finishing episode of the series here for us in the Business Made Simple series?
Yep. So we've been focusing on the leadership cockpit part of the plane.
Yeah,
so leadership, one of the parts of that is the guiding principles. So we've been talking about guiding principles. Week 1 was mission statement. Week 2 was key characteristics. So go back and listen to those. If you're just joining us this week, we'll be talking about the critical actions.
Yes.
So we'll dive a little bit more into detail there. That'll be this episode, but we want to do a quick recap on the plane.
Yeah.
So when we say plane, what are we talking about? It's just a visual that you can imagine your small business as a plane. Clay's laughing at me. You've got the leadership cockpit, which is really where you put the coordinates in, how you determine your flight path, where are you going.
Come on.
You have your sales and marketing engine. So that's what gives your plane thrust. We did a series about that previously that you can go back and listen to if you haven't yet, where we talk a lot more about the sales and marketing engines.
Yep.
You have the fuselage, kind of where what did you call it last week?
The body of the plane.
The body of the plane.
Yeah.
That's where your employees are. That's where your systems and processes, just your operations, how you carry the weight of your plane. You've got the wings, which are the product or service that you provide.
Well, that's right.
Sometimes you got to, circle a few times before you land, and you want to make sure you got the fuel for
Or if
that.
you got to divert to somewhere else, you want to have enough fuel to get there, right?
That's right.
Love it.
So that makes up the 6 parts of the plane. This series has been in the leadership cockpit part of the plane. We have done mission statement, key characteristics, and wrapping up with critical actions. So let's dive in.
I would encourage we've referenced it. Go listen to the other episodes.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to episode 1 and 2 because they're going to build right towards what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And it really does frame as we finish this off with critical actions. I would strongly encourage you to go listen to them.
Yep, that's good. And when we say critical actions, what does that mean? It's the actions that we can take nearly every day that will lead to completing the mission. So the actions we can take, the employees of this business, nearly every day that will lead to the completing of the mission.
Every single employee in the company, Michael?
The objective here is to get every employee connected to at least one critical action.
Wow,
there is some, depending on the size of the company. I would say the smaller the company, the more likely it is that every employee can complete every critical action nearly every day.
Love it.
The bigger you get, you're going to have different departments, and it's going to make a lot of sense for some critical actions to not be applicable across the board. But we would want every employee to, at the very least, be able to connect to one they can do. What are the actions that are really going to move the needle for the mission, which are the economic objectives? So like Clay said, you might be lost if you didn't listen to that episode. Go back, listen to it. The economic objectives that we're going to accomplish as a team. What are the actions we need to take to get it? So what are some examples? Could be examples from our business. It could be hypothetical businesses. I would like to just help people get a grip on the idea here so we can get outside of just our industry. Yeah. Like, what are some critical actions that would be examples of what we're talking about here?
I think I stole these from a previous conversation.
Nice.
And I mean, we all know and love this business. Always respond to a guest with my pleasure.
Yes, Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Yes.
1,000 points to Michael.
Oh,
he said it first.
Gryffindor. Sorry.
Wow. We have a lot going on right now.
It's kind
businesses
of us.
and Harry Potter and Chick-fil-A and all the things.
She didn't say Star Wars. Keep going.
I know, you're welcome. Again, I think I stole this example from a previous conversation, but like say if you owned a bakery or something of the like, everyone who walks in gets offered a free sample.
Come on.
Also, if you do have that business, let me know so I can pop by and get said free sample.
That's right.
I like baked goods. So things like that. I did also list ours.
It's good.
But I'll leave
I
that
like
to
that
you.
you're leaving that to me.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's a joke there.
Well, before we dive into
Uh-huh.
that, the Chick-fil-A is a great example. I have no clue, and they've been doing that for a long time. So they came up with that on their own. They might not call it this, but their employees saying my pleasure, that is almost the perfect example of a critical action.
Thank you.
Because
It was on my list, just to clarify. I had to mark it out.
Aaron gets credit for it.
Yeah, I know Aaron does. You do.
Let's just sit on it for a second. Why is that a good one? Every employee can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is also like my family, we go to Chick-fil-A because of the experience. It's going to be hospitable for children.
Mm-hmm.
People seem generally happy to serve you there. And one of the ways they've standardized that is by saying my pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And a good thing to dive into here is like maybe the person cooking the chicken in the back doesn't say my pleasure every shift, but if they walk out to the bathroom or if they're doing something and they hold the door open, for
And
example,
somebody
and
says
Yeah.
thank you.
then it triggers and they have the opportunity to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a
It's a
good,
good
example where like the front counter is going to say it a lot more than
Yeah.
the guy in the back.
Or
But-
girl.
or girl. I'm just generic.
500 points off Gryffindor.
The person in the back.
There we go.
But the person in the back can do it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
that's a really good example. Clay, I'll let you try to beat it.
It's I got zero chance because you've already said it was the best. The other thing about it that I like is that it's not huge because sometimes when you say critical action, that can feel big.
Yeah.
But sometimes the most impactful things towards the mission are really small, and so anybody can do that. And so that was just another kind of element about my pleasure that I'd share.
Yep.
Wear a hard hat. That was one that I heard. Like
Sure.
there was a construction company,
Yeah.
and so like the critical action was everybody wears a hard hat.
Yeah.
Like it's a real simple, small, but can emphasize safety.
Mm-hmm.
And another one that I heard was share and encouragement. And so it was, again, a really small thing, but the expectation was that nearly everyone at the company, nearly every day could share an encouragement because they were trying to joyfully serve. That was another element they wanted to have kind of intrinsic to them, a key characteristic. And so, that was another one that I've seen recently.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. Those are all good. I just thought of an example. The bakery is what triggered it. I've heard this one before too, is at a restaurant, if they're trying to grow, one of their economic objectives is a dessert metric. They're wanting to increase the revenue of their dessert. A critical action would be for every person to ask someone, hey, have you tried the apple pie?
Yeah.
And so
Because then even a hostess could just do
right.
that. Ooh,
Yeah.
That's right. And so the idea there is if we're going to sell 100 apple pies a day, we believe that if every person on our team just ask, hey, have you tried an apple pie yet?
Yeah.
Then we believe if we do that critical action, it will lead to selling
More
100
sales.
apple pies, right? So that's kind of the idea. And to your point, Clay, asking someone if they've tried the apple pie, really, really simple, low bar.
Yep.
Anyone can do it.
Yep.
So that's
my
kind of
pleasure. My pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to have this conversation with you today. So those are some examples. As we've brought critical actions to our business at Restoration Group, what has been helpful for you applying them with our team internally?
Did we talk about what ours are?
We haven't yet. We're gonna have an unveiling moment.
Oh, okay. All
in
right.
like
okay.
8 seconds.
Okay, great. Then I'll wait on it.
So I should say them now?
Yeah, I was joking. Go ahead and you can tell them ours, and then we'll talk about the impact that it's had with our team.
Okay. All right. So our 3 are show up on time and prepared to every meeting.
Yes.
Connect personally with clients and invite small business leaders to fill out the My Business Report, which if you've listened to any of the episodes on Business Made Simple, you have heard us talk about.
Yes.
So.
We have talked about it a lot, and we're going to continue to talk about it because sharing that and inviting people to do it is critical action for us, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the question before that?
So with those critical actions that we have at Restoration Group, and just as we've brought the guiding principles to our team with the critical actions, how have you seen that impact our organization internally?
Well, I think it's what you guys already talked about of everyone on the team almost every day can do at least one of these. And I think that's helpful when if you go back and listen to the episode on mission statement, you'll learn like the mission statement is time bound. And so this isn't a forever thing. And so right now the mission that we're on and the mission statement that we have goes through the end of 2024. And so at that point, or if we reach it before then, we will have a different mission statement. And I'm making that point because the current one that we are in may not lend itself to being as applicable to every role on our team, but the next one might be more applicable to some roles and less to other roles. And so I think there's going to be, with different mission statements, there's going to be kind of a give and take. And you gave the example of like the Chick-fil-A example, like the person cooking chicken versus the cashier, like they are going to have different experiences and they're going to be able to contribute in different ways. And but they still can contribute. And so I think that's what I've enjoyed about this is that although it might look different for every role, everyone still can contribute. So I'm going to use my teammate Sarah as an example. I would say she has less personal interaction with clients than Michael does, just because of the nature of their roles. But it doesn't mean that Sarah cannot do the connecting personally with clients. It means she might have less opportunity, like the person cooking chicken. It might be when they walk out to take out trash or go to the bathroom or, do whatever, they can hold a door. So they've got less opportunity, but they still have opportunity. And so in the same way, Sarah still does a great job of finding opportunities to connect personally with clients. And the ratio might look different for this specific mission statement, but who knows, maybe our next mission statement is really HR focused. And then Michael will have less opportunity to do that, but the opportunity is still there.
You make a good point.
Thank you.
You make a good point.
It got really quiet.
Well, I'm just thinking.
I was waiting to see what was being said. Yeah.
It's fine. If you can show me how the HR department can directly lead to economic increases in a business, then we'll do an HR mission statement all day.
Oh, he was on the hypothetical.
I got sidetracked.
He was on the hypothetical. He got derailed. It's because I put him in Gryffindor. It's because he was in Hogwarts.
And he was losing points. I just keep losing points.
You're the negative.
Well, and I don't want to we're introducing this idea, and so I want to keep it simple, but I do think it's helpful, especially if anyone's listening and they have a bigger team and they're really struggling with how can I come up with critical actions for my whole team. The advanced version of this is that you have your high level critical actions for your whole business, but then you would create critical actions by department. So if you have a sales department and an HR department, you can create different critical actions that are much more specific to their role. That's just the advanced version of how to apply this. We're really talking about keeping it simple for a whole organization.
How big, for our listeners and viewers, how big a business is that to where you'd apply it?
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. I would say less than an employee count. Yeah. If you have clear, fully functioning, independent departments that are different. So I'll use an organization we reference a lot, Habakkuk. Habakkuk has Salesforce that sells orthopedic devices. They also have an inventory control team. Yeah. And so those roles are so drastically different in how they contribute to the mission that regardless of employee count, they don't have, 10 employees. Yeah. So it's relatively small in that regard. But it would make sense to me for those two teams to have different critical actions because you can get much more specific for a salesperson that's going to clinic and is out in hospitals versus someone that's mostly working in a warehouse. Yeah. So that would be more of how I think through it is. Do you have departments where teams are doing very different things for your business model?
Good clarity.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Aaron Clay, do you have a perspective on how these critical actions are informing our business?
Yeah, the accountability piece has been the biggest part for me, is having them clarified as to the actions that we expect all of us to be taking, nearly all of us to be taking nearly every day. And the fact that we then are putting that in front of us every single week, that's the part for me. Even as the leader, right, as the CEO and founder of the company, there's an accountability that I feel the tension of, this is going to be put in front of everybody. And so I need to have done it every single week. Right. And the scoreboard will consistently be put in front of us. And we measure what we care about. And so putting it right in front of us every single time, that's been very helpful. Even just on my own journey with leading us through this has been the accountability of again, clarity, as Aaron's talked about in every episode, that it provides. Yep. And then the fact that we have it in front of us, and they aren't big things. And so if I'm not holding myself to doing small things that we say have a big impact, then Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about this in the previous episodes. You're alluding to it. we go over these guiding principles every single week in our
Yes.
team meeting.
Yes.
So we review our mission, we track the progress of our measurable economic objectives, and then we review our key characteristics and critical actions. And we end our meeting by giving shout outs for team members that are embodying those things.
That's right.
And so that's what you're talking about, is like, you can't show up to that meeting or you feel incredibly exposed if you consistently show up to that meeting and you're not taking these critical actions. And so it applies what I would view as a healthy amount of pressure, is like, I've got to be doing this, especially as the leader, most importantly as the leader. I can't expect anyone else to do this if I'm not doing it first. Yeah. And so it does give you that forced accountability of like, I'm saying this is important. Weekly, I'm going to have a chance to prove if that's true or not.
Yep. Yeah.
So let me see here. What's a risk point that you see bringing critical actions into a business? Yeah.
A risk point?
Yeah.
I think if you have too many, or I think you could potentially run the risk of the feeling of like, well, if everything's important, then nothing's important.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that's goody.
I think a way to like mitigate that risk is to make sure that they all align with the mission, which is kind of obvious. And especially if you walk through this program and start to build those out, starting with the mission statement and going from there, then it's more natural to align them. If you just jump in here, it's going to feel a little like disjointed. But I think that, again, kind of going back to that, the heart behind this is that almost everyone can do at least one of these almost every day. And so it's I feel like it could run the risk of feeling overwhelming if you're setting the expectation or not being clear with employees that, like, you know, or if they're filling the gaps that like, okay, I need to do all three of these things every single day, even on Saturdays and Sundays. Like, this is now ruling my life, versus the expectation or the clarity of the expectation that, like, if one of these happens, like, that's great, you know, like that, you know, one of them might be more natural on a different day, because maybe today you're interacting with a client. And so it's obviously more natural then to connect personally with a client than it is to maybe you don't have a meeting to show up on time and prepare to, you know, or vice versa. And so, and if your thing is you've got a bunch of meetings today, then great. You get to really, really work out the critical action of being on time and prepared for a meeting every single time you have a meeting today. And you may not interact with any clients, or you may not that day have an opportunity to invite anyone to fill out the small business report. But today you can focus on this. And so I think there can be a risk point of feeling like there's so much, what am I supposed to do? This is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But again, just bringing that clarity, bringing that focus for your team, that's not the goal. Like, the goal isn't to do all three of these twice a day, every day until you die. Feels like a lot.
The plane landed.
Sounds like a crash landing. Aaron, you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but Clay, what would you say to someone who's like, we have 8 critical actions?
Yeah, what she just said, that's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a risk point, that if you went beyond and had more than 3, because again, if everything's important, nothing's important. So I think that's a pretty simple answer there. I would add to it, I guess another risk point could be that if you're saying these 3 are the critical actions, nothing else, like other responsibilities of yours don't matter, other kind of like your traditional day-to-day that maybe aren't these hyper-focused ones.
Right.
I guess that could be another risk point, but I don't find it to be, I haven't experienced that all of a sudden people stopped doing their other, like paying the bills isn't listed as a critical action, but we're not, you know what I mean?
Responding to emails.
Correct. I think those pieces continue to be there as the day-to-day.
Yeah.
But I guess that could be a risk point, is that somebody may, but I don't really
and that
buy
would
it.
be a great way to identify that they probably need to find a different job.
Or to be fair, like, the leader needs to communicate more clearly.
For sure. Yes. We'll give them a chance first. Totally. But like, we don't have employees that are thinking that way.
Right.
And so it's like, that's not a problem we encounter, because we have amazing team members that aren't looking for shortcuts and cop-outs. If we did, then we would get to lead through that. But my point in saying that is, like, you don't want team members that are thinking, how can I do the absolute minimum possible? And we're very blessed to not have to deal with that problem. So as we kind of wrap up the series on guiding principles, You want to say land the plane?
Guiding principles. No, I was going to say guiding principles.
So we reviewed the mission statement, key characteristics, critical actions. Again, if you haven't listened to the whole series, it really is building on each other. So you need to listen to those first 2 episodes. But for folks that are listening and are compelled and interested, and they're like, man, I want to do this. We've done it. So through your experience, how would you counsel or advise someone to bring a guiding principles package to their organization?
I would say, as with anything, like just get started, just try. I think we've done our best to break this down to like bite-sized chunks through this series.
Ooh, that's good.
But I also know as a small business leader, it can feel like, but where do I start? And like, what do I do? And this feels like a lot. And so I would just encourage, like, just get started, just take one step at a time. You don't have to tomorrow have your mission statement and your critical actions and your key characteristics. Like, you don't have to have everything tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, this could be, and everyone, this program and like implementing this is meant to work at your own pace. And so whatever makes most sense for you, whatever area of your business needs the most attention most urgently. I know you've mentioned several times the My Business Report. And so I would say start there with seeing what is it that actually needs the most urgent attention in my business. And if it's like, I don't want to take your assessment, I would say like it's 10 minutes and it's free. And so like, you're likely spending 10 or more minutes stressing out about how to run your business anyway. Mm-hmm. You could spend those 10 minutes in getting a clearer picture of where should I put my energy that's most effective and most efficient right now in this specific season. So just ensure I would just start somewhere.
Sure.
Yeah. Scroll down, click the link to take the My Business Report assessment.
Yeah.
11 minutes if you're a medium clicker, right? 11
12
minutes.
12 for slow clickers.
12 for slow clickers. And then like, we'd love to buy you coffee and be able to process with you, because the report is wonderful and it will tell you a good diagnostic about your business and some things you can implement and change. But specifically to your question of, what advice would I have for them? Let Michael come buy you coffee and walk through with you what we've learned and what he sees in your report, because that's what you've been trained and certified to do. And so that's what I would tell people.
Yeah. To give someone kind of a expectation on what it looks like. Because Aaron, I appreciate that you're saying like, you can't just go have this by the end of day tomorrow. Like, it's not going to be that fast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we get a little tactical real quick? So Clay, will you just walk people through, don't get too deep in the weeds. I got to pull you back a little bit. Walk people through the process that we went through in applying this, even in regards to like, how many meetings did we have? How long did it take? What does that make sense?
Yeah. You're going to have to help me remember, but on the guiding principles itself, after we took the assessment and then we went to go implement these, I think it took us 2 or 3 sessions to knock them all out. And some of that was more just like, I think we got a framework. That's my kind of word. We got a framework of answers provisionally on all of them, but then it was, okay, let's sleep on it and let's come back together, the 3 of us. And so, a couple of sessions to put that together. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
2 or 3 working sessions. And it was a lot of just whiteboarding, like, okay, let's throw everything on the board. And then we're really prioritizing what's most important. And so we're able to go through that process.
And you have the answers, you listeners and viewers, like all these answers you have. The beauty of this, and one of the things that Aaron referenced it in the last Business Made Simple series, is the hand-holding, the step-by-step approach. Yeah. And that's the beauty of what, Michael's been certified and we're offering the product, is that we can just walk you step-by-step to the answers you've already got, that then bundles them real clearly, just like we have them laid out for us. Yeah. And it allows you to present it in a clear and consumable way for your business to be able to share with your team, walk through with your team, and then lead yourself to a new mission, a new future and destination that you desire.
Yeah. Yeah. So often in our businesses, we get so like in the weeds, and we'll take a forest analogy. Like, we get in the forest, and when you're deep in the forest, it's hard to get a good perspective. Just by taking this assessment, it's going to allow you to elevate and maybe get a more full picture of the entire forest, not just the part you're deep in as you're charging, taking new territory. And then people like us have the benefit of being on the edge of the forest, and we just have a different perspective, and we benefit from that, from investing in outside coaching for ourselves. And so it allows a different perspective and kind of just helps you view your business through a new lens.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Final thoughts as we wrap up our leadership series with the Guiding Principles package.
Those were my final thoughts.
Love
I'm
it.
just saying
Loved it.
that's like, just take a step, just do one thing
Yep.
at a time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Good.
So we mentioned it. The link to the My Business Report is in the show notes. That would be the clear action item today, is take that assessment, take you 10 minutes. This is the end of our series. If you didn't get a chance to listen to our previous series, we talked about sales and marketing engine. So you can go back and check that out as well. And as we wrap up, we will end with a verse. Today's verse is out of 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58. It says, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor is in the Lord is not in vain."
Yeah, your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in this week. And until next week, choose life. Thank you for tuning in. To find out more about how Restoration Group can serve you or your business, click the link in the show notes below or go to restorationgroup.co.